Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. And thanks for the time, everybody. I appreciate it. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the hybrid cloud, but in a different format. Um, than Lance was talking about, mostly about how we get the power of Redis to kind of go across multiple regions, on-prem, and kind of multi-cloud. So, and if you don't know what Redis is, I'd be surprised. It's the most popular database in the world for the last 7 or 8 years. It's been the most launched Docker image for database on Docker Hub. And we're also the most admired and desired database on Stack Overflow survey for this year for a NoSQL database. So with that, and obviously there's a ton of offerings of Redis out there. There's the open source, which I actually talk a lot about in other formats, especially on LinkedIn. So go ahead and follow me there if you want to get more thought leadership on Redis and the data space. But with that, let's dive in. And so a quick info about myself. I am a senior technical product marketing manager at Redis. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. The image on the right is Mineral Basin at Snowbird. It's one of my favorite places on earth. My wife, Olivia, I started at my career at Oracle a long time ago, but actually doing a lot of system analysis and system engineering with Oracle DB. So very familiar with Oracle. And I was actually there while they were launching Oracle Cloud, which is pretty cool. I worked at a couple of cryptocurrency companies back when cryptocurrency was still very new. And then I went over to Domo, which, if you don't know what Domo is, it's a business intelligence platform. I did implementation for them. I did data science for them. Had some really cool use cases of, predicting turnover for, some of the biggest healthcare companies in the world and saving them billions of dollars a year, which is, really, really fun stuff. Was really happy at Domo, but Redis called and said, hey, stop implementing. Let's, come tell stories and kind of meet the middle between the technology and how it works. So that's where I've been for the last 2 years. So let's get into the agenda today. We're going to be talking about, we're going to lay the groundwork of what hybrid cloud is. I assume everybody here knows what it is, but I'll set the groundwork in regards to Redis, which is real time, right? It's less than 1 millisecond latency. Then we'll go over kind of why Redis makes sense in a hybrid deployment and kind of go over these different topics of consistency, flexibility, security, observability, scalability, cost, and deployment options. So with that, let's dive in. Also, I use GIFs. Apparently it's not GIFs, it's GIFs. So I use GIFs in my presentation. I don't want there to be too much text. Hopefully this is a little bit more digestible for you guys. Happy to receive feedback at the end. Let me know if this is something that's easier for you to, be entertained with. So a hybrid cloud is when we have an application, product, or service running in a combination of different infrastructures. The most common hybrid cloud example is combining public and private cloud environments, like on-prem data center and a public cloud computing environment. It's very popular because almost no one can rely entirely on a single infrastructure. Historically, businesses started on-prem data centers to support their product or service. Imagine Oracle back in the day, right? Early 2000s. How many millions of dollars were invested, if not billions, into infrastructure and expertise over the past few decades? So companies won't just abandon this investment, even if they wanted to move on most of their data layer into the public cloud. Plus, there are actually quite a few industries out there where it's simply not feasible for them to leave their private data centers. Working at Domo and doing business intelligence, I worked in implementing business intelligence. I worked with many, many companies who did not want to have certain parts of their data in the public cloud or even on certain cloud providers and certain regulations. So everyone has their own rules, right? It differs. For example, businesses with regulatory compliance mandates like HIPAA, PCI, many more. And businesses have either a limited budget or a small footprint, which also prevents them from moving completely to the cloud. A hybrid approach allows you to decide where to run your workloads, which is the most important part, I think. This helps with the governance of sensitive data that needs to be kept in private data centers. Performance-wise, planning a product or service against an on-prem data center provides only good latency for those who are in the proximity of the data center, as Lance was describing. While distributing the product or service across remote locations in the cloud will provide much better response times across many regions. In regards to cost, typically using a public cloud is better for cost for these dynamic workloads where it's hard to predict throughput. Plus, services usually exist to help you scale down and up these resources as you need them, instead of just sinking into permanent on-prem infrastructure, not to mention the acquisition time for new hardware. And that's just the start of many benefits of hybrid cloud deployment before we move on to other great reasons why hybrid makes sense with Redis. It's important to note that setting up and maintaining hybrid cloud doesn't come without its challenges. First off, compatibility between legacy applications and public cloud services will prevent companies from getting started. Excuse me. From a complexity standpoint, security and access control gets complicated because we simply have more doors and windows to lock, more security maintenance and patching, additionally getting a control and observability after distributing data across multiple environments. Another important one to mention is data consistency across all the environments. It's common for businesses to underestimate the complexity of getting data to be consistently accurate and persistent across multiple environments and regions. I think this point is not discussed enough in the data area of expertise. We don't talk about how when you have inaccurate or inconsistent data across different regions or clusters, more compute is required to get those, different clusters and regions synced. And it's something we don't talk about when we're trying to predict cost. We're like, oh yeah, well, we expect this application or this workload to have a certain amount of throughput. We never, ever try to calculate, because it's nearly impossible to calculate, the cost of inconsistency. And that's something that Redis Enterprise really helps with. So Redis Enterprise is a simplified approach of getting that hybrid cloud architecture with best-in-class speed, data consistency, and high availability in a real-time data solution. You can scale your data layer consistently across cloud, on-prem, hybrid, and the globe. There are quite a few considerations about keeping data consistent in your application. And I've touched on one already, but first, improve data quality. Keeping data consistent across data layers, your data layer helps ensure that the data is accurate and up to date. This ensures that data is reliable and can be used for, anything, analysis, decision making, or just having accurate data for your systems. Second, reduce data duplication. By keeping data organized and consistent across the data layer, duplicate data can be avoided, helping reduce data storage costs as well as save time and effort when retrieving data. And third, improve performance. I think this one also, once again, is not talked about enough. Consistent data improves performance because you're not having to continuously use compute to sync data to make sure it's accurate. You can help optimize query performance and reduce retrieval time, thus improving system performance and user experience. Finally, improve security. Keeping data consistent across the data layer can ensure that only authorized users have access to sensitive data, preventing data breaches and other security issues. Redis Enterprise also helps with throughput requirements with automated elastic scaling, which allows you to use it when you need it. With the seasonal demand changing throughout, throughput needs dramatically, you need a flexible and scalable solution, which makes Redis Enterprise a great fit for any size workload, product, customer, or service, large or small. And of course, we have quite a bit of flexibility. Redis Enterprise provides, deploying across multiple environments, providing quick ways to get started in any preferred cloud vendors. Setting up active clusters in Redis Enterprise Cloud allows data to be accessed from anywhere, reducing the latency of nearby users at the same time establishing high availability, guaranteeing 5 nines of availability, which is equivalent to 26 seconds of downtime per month, which is actually crazy. Redis Enterprise is the only Redis offering on the market that offers 5 nines of high availability. And like I said, it's 26 seconds of downtime. But if you go to the industry standard of 4 nines, which is the typical standard or offering out there besides Redis Enterprise, and it skyrockets from 26 seconds of downtime to 1 hour of downtime per month. So quite a large difference when it comes to the bottom line of customers who need to be running 24/7, which is one of the main reasons why we have our customers are coming to us for our Redis offering. So what about security? So Redis Enterprise software is the on-prem version, right? So we have Redis Enterprise Cloud and software and also on Kubernetes. But for software, it is the customizable Redis for your on-prem needs to be really, hone in on the security, access control, and regulatory compliance. Speaking of Redis Enterprise software, we know that data security and governance are really important. Redis Enterprise software enables real-time use cases, even for those who have regulatory compliance mandates. You don't usually think of on-prem as quick, but if you can put Redis on-prem, which, all on-prem servers are going to have RAM, right? You can get sub-millisecond response times on your on-prem private data centers for more sensitive data and seamlessly connect your public cloud to your dynamic workloads. Redis Enterprise supports inter-node encryption, which encrypts internal communication between nodes, improving the security of data as it travels within a cluster. And this enables on the control plane, which then manages the cluster and its databases. Then below the control plane is the data plane, which encrypts communication used to replicate shards between nodes and proxy communication with shards located on different nodes. And then observability, it's been mentioned a couple times today already. What we don't usually talk about is as we start to distribute data across multiple regions and clusters and products. I think there was a recent poll, I think, I forget who did it. Was it McKinsey & Company on LinkedIn? It was like, what's the number of services that companies, large enterprises have today? It's nearly 1,000 services that large enterprises will have nowadays. Imagine doing observability on that amount of services. So you need to have, multiple tools nowadays, or at least tools that can be compatible. As most services out there were compatible with Datadog, Prometheus, Grafana, New Relic, making it super easy to get a single unified view of your Redis databases. And I actually just created a blog last week on another one called Uptrace, which is really cool. And then, of course, Redis Insight, which is our Redis GUI, which is an awesome desktop manager to visualize and optimize Redis data. Plus, you can pay as you grow. One of the biggest challenges with moving some workloads to the cloud is controlling the cost. It can really start to get out of hand with layering on multiple services and continuous scale. You can scale up and scale down depending on the throughput you need when you need it. And over provisioning is a challenge in any architecture, but at least in the public cloud environment, it can be as easy as a few clicks to scale down those costs. Plus, we have our Redis on Flash product, which we can move larger data sets into SSD or flash, keeping the data warm, but not as expensive as having it in memory. We know that RAM is expensive. We get it. But this is a great solution for those that need large data sets that need to be kept warm. A really easy, simple example to think of is shopping carts, right? So the active shopping carts that people are using on e-commerce need to be hot, needs to be in RAM. But you also don't want to throw away the carts. And I'm sure you get those emails like I do where you put something in your cart, right? And don't forget about your cart. Those are going to be warm data. You can allow the customers to come back and still see those items in the cart. So much more efficient for performance and also for cost. We've seen that we can save up to 70% of database costs simply by using Redis on Flash and its automatic data tiering mechanism. And getting Redis Enterprise set up on your on-prem or private center is quite simple. You can install the Redis Enterprise binaries, deploy a simple Docker container, or do a seamless Kubernetes deployment. It's even easier on the cloud, no matter who your preferred cloud vendor is. And there are options for setting up Redis Enterprise through the marketplace or one of the Kubernetes supported distributions like GKE, AKS, EKS, and many more. There is really no other Redis that is better integrated with Kubernetes than Redis Enterprise. And I've done multiple series of videos and talks about this. We've had multiple customers who switched to Redis Enterprise just because of how difficult it is to use Kubernetes and Redis open source. We have our Redis Enterprise operator, which essentially automates all of the integrations and complexities that have to go in between automation and orchestration with Kubernetes and Redis open source. So something to consider there as well. And, getting these two environments to talk together is simple with a single endpoint available across your entire public cloud. So that's it. Adopting a hybrid cloud architecture has never been easier than it is today. There's so many services and companies out there that can help provision this. In regards to Redis, and Redis is required in nearly every use case out there, especially if you need real time. There really is no better Redis than Redis Enterprise. We're the ones who built it, support it, and manage and support the open source. You can try Redis Enterprise Cloud for free, see how easy it is to move workloads off your on-prem databases. And like I said, if you are thinking about Kubernetes, please check out our Redis Enterprise operator for Kubernetes and give it a test drive. It's a huge improvement from using Redis open source and Kubernetes. So yeah, with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Ron.